Really need to shave. It's getting out of control.
How many days?
Oh, I don't even know.
Yeah. Oh,
Are we back?
oh, is it working?
Are we lost in space and time?
I don't know. Hello. Welcome to the Comic Shop Does a Podcast. Twitch and the streaming things seem to keep dropping out. I'm not sure what it is. We're just going to jump into it, though, when we're... Oh, there we go. So that... All right, so that it seems like it's working now.
Ah, c'est bon.
Oh, oui.
Oui, oui. Bonjour. Je m'appelle Aaron Zele.
Fromage.
Welcome to the Comic Shop Does a Podcast with me, Aaron Zele. My subtitle says Number 1 Dad. Who am I to say?
Oh, and I'm Evan Coy, number 1 Grandpa 2013 Northeast Division qualifier. Yes, and welcome to our technical difficulty laden podcast. Martin, your comment does show up there. So, or I'm sorry, Football MM, whoever you are, we're not sure. Your comment does show up in the chat there, so that's good.
I do want to see a bunch of M&Ms playing football.
Yes,
That's my
do
dream.
do you know the reference to that? What the joke?
That there used to be an M&M back here
Yes.
in the back part of the store forever. Is that?
Yeah, there was a 14 football playing M&Ms, I think.
They did exist?
Yes.
Yeah, M&M dispensers.
Arlene was into M&Ms, you know that.
Well, I
But she
knew
had-
there were many M&M things.
She had
here.
14 of the same football playing one, which we found very funny.
I mean, she carried many things. I didn't presume to think that she was a particular fan of any one thing as a purveyor and retailer of.
The
such
failed gimmick was we were going to wrap them all up as gifts. And when I took over the store, we were going to have a party celebrating the fact that, whatever. She's retiring and whatever. But we were going to give those wrapped up football M&Ms to everybody, and everybody would give Arlene the same gift over and over again of the football M&M because nobody wants a football M&M. But
Now, are there M&Ms in the football M&M?
You can put them in there.
I wouldn't. That's a waste of a
Oh.
good M&M. Why would I give M&Ms to Arlene?
Well, I mean,
I could
that-
just give her a
that-
piece of plastic that has no value.
That'd be the one way to save the football M&M is if there's M&Ms in it.
Yeah, no, that would make it like something you would want.
Yeah.
That I don't want to give you something you want.
Fair enough. Just give somebody a bag of M&Ms.
They made a really great window. She had them playing football against each other in a window display once.
But they're not really posable, right?
No.
They can't be a fun. Oh, look at that!
Whoa! What is this?
Wow! I've never seen that before.
Somebody liked
Somebody
this
liked
stream.
the stream.
We're just islands in the stream, you know.
Oh my goodness,
That is who we are.
Look at that.
You are
We're
the Dolly Parton and
Kenny Rogers, baby.
of the comic shop.
I've been making that joke since the pandemic happened and everybody had to stream everywhere, and nobody's gotten it until now.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
because they say islands in the stream. That's all we are.
Oh, okay. It
It's a
wasn't-
good song.
It wasn't
too.
funny.
It's,
I thought it was going to be.
it's a
funny.
legitimate good song.
No, I mean, yeah.
It's catchy.
Oh,
All right.
oh, what are we doing? So we're talking some art stuff today.
Yeah.
You've got a project you've been working on. So let me just go to the doc cam again.
Yeah, I have a problem. I'm always working on stuff.
Well, I mean, not a problem.
That's what you think. Anyway, yeah, so I did this drawing last summer of my daughter and my dog driving a car. And this is part of a story that's going to be in Wesley Volume 2. It's a French foreign film that Beatrice and Wesley have to watch as part of a film class. And it is Goose and the Toot versus Criminal Mimes.
Criminal Mimes.
Criminal Mimes or Mime Crimes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure which title.
Criminal Mimes is
Criminal
stronger.
Mimes is
Yeah.
stronger. All right. Well, that's made this podcast worthwhile today because I didn't have that until I said it just now today.
All right.
And so this is them driving a little car. They're going to be hunting down burglar mimes. So I've just been inking this drawing.
Do you think that's going to be distracting in Wesley that it's not realistic that a dog can drive a car?
It's going to be very distracting, but honestly, I don't care.
Okay. Thank you.
Good answer, sir.
Yeah. So what else?
I like how we have the bottom of your microphone in the down camera shot too.
You
That's
like that?
exciting.
Do you want me to just move that out?
That's good.
Yeah,
I love this. I
so
love the tones.
This is another drawing I drew out last. So this is how crazy I am. Is like I always draw pencil out things like a long time ago, and then I get to the inking stage like way later. And I did the same thing the whole process of Wesley Volume 1, 2, where I have an idea for stuff and I sketch it out a bunch of times, and it just by nature of how working on things works, it takes a while to get to the inking phase. And I use the waxy nib.
You get to the stinking phase very quickly, though.
The inking phase? Oh, inking to stinking.
Yes.
Yeah, the tones were fun on this too.
I love the tones. I love old Zipatone. Like, I think that there's so much fun to that.
Yeah, and I with the I mean, obviously it's my own style, and I'm kind of pushing some different things. Looking at some Katsuhiro Otomo for the sky and stuff. And
Sky looks good.
Thank you. And also looking at some Ashley Wood. Have you ever seen how Ashley Wood uses halftones? Very gestural. Like, he does a lot of black and white stuff, but it never feels like it's missing anything.
Okay.
So I'm always trying to kind of ingest all these different style ideas and not copy them, but use them in a way that I think makes sense. And there are two different types of halftones in this image. We've got the dots here, and then we've got the lines here.
Yeah. Actually, I don't like it when you zoom in on the lines, but I think it works very well for that. Like, again, when you get too close, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I like that tone. But then you zoom back out, and it's like, oh, no, that looks really good.
Yeah, and I always use a pretty large line or a large halftone, because when it gets too small, something called a moire effect happens. Are you familiar with this?
I know the term. Can you explain it to me, please?
So what happens is an unintentional pattern emerges out of the pattern that you have. Like if I were to pull out Prizza's Pizza, because that is shrunk from the original comic size, there's moire patterns where I use halftones. So it's supposed to just be a flat texture pattern, and when you look at it, there's kind of like darker and lighter spots in it.
It's like those dumb things that show up on Facebook every once in a while where you'll be like the dot that's moving around when there's really not a dot moving around, or like it looks like it's twisting or turning, but really it's just a bunch of flat lines together. Like just the
well, not so much an optical illusion.
The Man Ray, no? Okay.
Not so much an optical illusion. It just creates a pattern that is unintentional.
Okay.
And I just kind of left it in Prizza's Pizza because...
What's Prizza's Pizza about?
The human son of a living pizza man must fight evil anchovies with the help of LT Provolone, who's like Judge Dredd with the cheese on his head.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh!
Whoa! Hey-o.
Jonathan Ashline has liked the stream.
We must be on the Facebook.
I think we are on the FB.
On the FB, baby.
Word up.
Yeah, so I really like how this illustration came out. And in other news, the proofs that I put together for
the poops,
the Volume 1 of Wesley the Dark Ages, is at the printer and it is in production. So I went back and forth just talking with the people, the pre-press people, just making sure that they see what I see and everything looks good. And as of today, it is in production. So it's being printed, it's being cut, being bound, and then hopefully shipped in these next few weeks.
Can I show you what I was working on with my sister?
Sure.
So my nephew's obsessed with Dogman. So we wanted to do like a little comic and like try to do a couple different characters that tell a story that's like just silly and goofy. And I'm not good with colors and I'm not great with character design. And I'm having a heck of a time with like lettering and things like that. But these are the couple characters that we came up with. Lucky, who just has a really long name and is anything but lucky. He's kind of like the poor Oliver orphan type character from 120 years in the past. And then we have Lemon Bee. She used to be a lemon and now she's a bee. So Lemon Bee, what Lemon Bee does is what Lemon Bee does is she can make special honeys that can solve like a salve, like an alchemist, putting it together and creating the thing to solve the problem or kind of like a magical quality almost. And we have Iggy. He's a dinosaur from the Ignatius period, which is...
Oh, I like that.
Thank you. That was my sister. But Iggy can eat everything. So that's one of his superpowers is, if there's in a situation where you need to get through the tunnel or get through the mountain, it's like, well, he can eat his way through the mountain. And then he turns into this big Kirby-like character, and the gimmick is then there's a big colorful poop in one of the panels, but it's never acknowledged when he goes back to his regular size that he has pooped out this big magical thing of everything he's eaten. But I thought that was kind of funny. And then there's Brick. He's just a Lego brick that when he thinks real hard, he can multiply, and he's really dumb.
So it's very difficult for him to think really hard. Or it's easy because he's not too smart.
I don't know. I think he just says non sequitur things, and then he gets his powers. He can replicate, so he can make Lego. If you need a Lego staircase, he can make a Lego staircase and become a staircase.
He's in the early running for my favorite character out of the bunch here.
Thank you. But man, it's really hard. Like I was telling you about this, like the lettering and things like that. I spent more time trying to do letters, and like I hate that first word balloon up there. There's so much dead space at the end of the balloon. I hate the tail. I just had a very difficult time of like formatting it to fit correctly. Even the second panel, like Lemon Bee, I hate that it touches the top of the panel, but doesn't. Like it, I got to change everything.
You got to chunk it.
Now the third panel I feel like works in terms of text. There's a little bit of space. The tail looks good, but I like how it's butted up against the top.
Yeah, it's getting there.
And then brick is just brick. It's 2 words, so it's not a very complex word balloon. But man, and then like trying to find fonts that work.
Did you get those couple links I sent you?
I did. I didn't download those fonts though. Maybe I'll do that right now.
Or you can, well, you don't have to do it like right now.
Yeah.
But there's some good stuff. I really like Font Squirrel because all that stuff is cleared for commercial use. So if you find something you like in there,
yeah.
you
And
can
again, this
use
is just a project that my sister and I wanted to do for my little nephew, who's just super into comics lately, super into Dogman.
Yeah.
He's been making his own comics too. I think I told you this, that maybe back in Easter, he gave me a very creatively bound comic where some pages were landscaping, some pages were portrait.
Yes.
And it was very simplistic, he would say, well, this is a robot because he has eyes. There was 2 little dots in the square heads. That the book he was showing my sister and I the other day that he's working on, it's like from 6 months ago to now, like full characters with like costumes and like features and like clearly defined proportions of like it's not just a stick figure. It's like, well, those are arms and legs and a torso and a head, and like color that he's putting in, and it's just one of those. I don't know child development at all, but it's one of those really cool things to think of. 6 months ago, he was drawing crooked stick people.
Yeah.
And now it's like, like he really understands. Like you can tell that he's taking all this visual information he's getting from these other Dogman type books that he's reading, and he's probably doing what we did as kids. What you always do: you copy, you steal. Like that's how you learn.
Still do that.
Yeah, of course. But I don't know. So that's the thing I've been working on.
I like the textures in it a lot. I like the character drawings. Those are fun.
Then I see your friend today, Sally. Has been posting some character designs of things.
She's phenomenal at character design, though.
But her line work is so...
She does it in Illustrator, that's why. Illustrator has, like, absolute line fidelity, like, total control.
And I know that I'm overthinking it because it's like, literally, this is just a silly thing that I'm going to do for my nephew. But, man, I look at her... Because her line weights are all kind of the same, I feel like. But there's such good... I don't know. The way those characters pop off of the page, and then the other thing too is color. Like I really struggle with color. I want to do some color stuff, and I don't know how to approach that. So I think like one of the things again I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with everything.
Fair enough.
Like again, I've had some wonky panels, and I like the wonky panels. But then I've been looking at some other books and going, no, maybe I should have more traditional squared off panels.
It just depends on what you want to do. Like if you look at Pizza's Pizza. I don't think there's any correct squared off panels in that whole book.
And it plays to that style of there's a funness to that. And I feel like that's what I want this to be fun, and I want it to have a little bit of rough because I think that's what your Dave Pilkey does with Dogman is make it look a little bit more.
Yeah, and it when things are too perfect, it has a stiffness and like a lifelessness, and that's. And I'm always trying to because now with like line straighteners and things like that, it's easier to make things very crisp and perfect.
And I guess that's the trouble that I'm getting myself into is I do want to use like line straighteners, and I do want to like again trying to figure out the line weight for the panels versus the line weight for the word balloons versus the basic line weights for the characters. And yes, the line weight for the characters are going to vary a little bit.
Yeah.
But like trying to figure all of that out, it's very complicated, and it's stuff that I don't think about. Where it's just like I can draw, but when I start to think about what does a page look like, or how are things composed, and like again, font choices, what's bolded, and then bolding changes the placement of certain things within the balloon.
Yep.
And then it's, is it redoing the balloon?
And some people don't even believe in bolding things. So that's
Most people should go to hell.
I mean, personally, I like bolding stuff and putting
Yes.
emphasis on things because I think it creates that vocal inflection and tone in your head when you're reading it.
Martin, are you leaving? Goodbye,
Oh,
Martin.
goodbye.
Have fun, everybody.
Thank you.
Well, your controversial thing about Bolton there, I don't agree with you.
Well, good. Then you can go to hell.
Well, I bold my stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the hail Satan.
Okay.
That's the school that I came from. All caps, bolded word choices. Again, I
Yes.
wasn't even looking at eyes in this.
Oh yeah, the crossbar eyes.
Or does this font already take care of that for me?
It looks like it does.
Okay.
Are all the eyes?
Again, there's just so many design choices that need to be made.
This font does a nice job with that.
Because I did not look at that. I didn't even think about that until now.
Yeah, that's one of the things I learned from the Nate Picos
yeah.
things of the crossbar eyes. Nate Picos of Blambot, who I used some of his fonts for
Shout
my
out
stuff.
to Nate Picos from Blambot doing. Some might say he's doing the Lord's work, Aaron.
You might say that.
The fonts that he gives away for free on
Yeah.
Blambot are
Phenomenal,
excellent.
yeah.
I almost feel guilty of searching out the free ones and not spending $25 or $30, which I will. I will spend money on some of these fonts because I feel like he should get.
Yes.
Um,
He does. I think he does a sale like the day after Thanksgiving or something like that.
mm.
Like he has a sale like once a year and it's like 10 or 15% off. That's when I dip in and grab
I just
some
couldn't
stuff.
believe the amount of quality free stuff he was.
Oh
giving.
yeah. Well, it's because he wants comics to be lettered good
Yeah.
because I don't want to poo-poo other indie creators, but I'm even not victim. I even fall prey to this where like you spend all this time writing the book, drawing the book, setting the book up for print, and then you get to the lettering stage, and that's the weakest part because you basically run a marathon,
Yes.
and then you have to like get up and like do another 10K, and it's just like I am so beat up. Can you read the words? Okay, let's publish it.
Alex Dexter in the chat. So there are two different chats now, which gets a little confusing.
Yeah.
And the Facebook chat doesn't show up directly on the main chat. But on the alternate chat, we see Alex Dexter and says, "Evening, folks. Wonky panels are just fine. Most people should," I believe that's bold, "go to hell." Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, get some HTML in there. I haven't seen that kind of stuff in a long time. But I think he just wants indie comic books to be lettered better.
Yeah.
And I agree because good. I mean, I took like basically the entire month of July to re-letter issues 1 through 8 of Leslie for my collected edition, and I think it's so much stronger for having done that. And another thing that I do too is kind of break down chunks of the words into. Oh, there we go. Yeah, see, already on your second page, you're already chunking the words better. Yeah, this is much stronger than that first one.
Again, the first page, the Dogman books, there's like we wanted an intro page, like
Yes.
introduce all the characters, so like Cameron would know what we're talking about, and then going into the intro page would be that first page that I showed you, and then it would be this. But even things like
Even
again,
the speech bubble structure feels better to me
yeah,
on this one.
it's a lot of work though. I spent as much time arranging speech bubbles as I did drawing, and the drawings there are very rudimentary. Although I can see I have a weird line weight for the fourth panel that's there that's driving me crazy, and I need to redraw that. But I don't know. It's one thing to draw. It's another thing there's just so many design elements
Yes.
that go into this,
Mm-hmm.
and you know this better than anybody because you've done a dozen plus comic books. You've done 300 plus pages of well, probably even more than that, but at
Yes.
least 300 pages of comics in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, man, I'm somebody who I think understands this craft very well, but when you start to get into it,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God.
That's part of the appeal of it too, though, is the ongoing challenge because there's so much to consider, and it all just comes down to design choices.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you establish those design choices, you just have to stay consistent with the choices that you made. That's why doing shorter stories and then bunching them together is the way to go.
Well, initially we started, I was like, let's do 4 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had 12 pages within like 3 hours. And I'm like, yeah, but the stories just flows so well.
Mm-hmm. My one note I have for you is try to tighten up the vertical spacing between the letters, because do you Chris Iliopoulos and
Yes.
who did Savage Dragon for a long time. Now Nate Picos does Savage Dragon, or is it somebody
No,
else?
they
Or
just
no,
switched to a new
just got a new
letterer
guy.
within. Well, a new guy like a year ago. I
Yes.
forget his name.
But the style that you see that's built off the Chris Eliopoulos sometimes is kind of a big circular thing, and the text is tight and it's kind of centered in the
So
middle.
I do think you were talking about is it leading or letting?
Yes, letting.
Okay,
Kerning
so-
is the horizontal space. Letting is the vertical.
Because I have
space.
been fooling with kerning and letting a little bit because I think that it gets tighter in this first word balloon here in terms of the letting.
Mhm.
But then I can easily see again that second balloon. I didn't do that. I left it a little bit too loose. And then that first balloon, now that you pointed out, I go, what? I don't know what I was thinking there. Like, why would I leave that much spacing between? But again,
Yeah.
I'm typing things in. I'm moving things around a little bit, and there's just so much to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's very interesting. No, but that's the type of stuff too that, like, again, I know this is a dumb thing. Not a dumb thing. It's a thing that I want to share with my nephew.
Yeah.
But there's the part of me that loves comics
Yeah.
and understands how things work
Mm-hmm.
goes, if I don't do it the right way, it's going to bother me. And I know that
Yeah.
it's not going to bother him.
Mhm.
And I know that my sister's not going to understand any of this stuff.
Right.
But like, this is the nuance that I get lost in that makes it go, boy, I'm going to spend 80 to 100 hours doing 12 pages of a very rudimentary comic book.
Well, it's all good practice
Yeah,
too.
which
You know,
I
and
agree.
the more you do it, the more you get a sense of how you want it to look. Because I mean, you even look at like Priestess Pizza to the new Wesley stuff. It's like night and day.
Oh, yeah.
Although with the Priestess Pizza stuff, I did it more like how you're doing with this, where I drew the speech bubbles in and then put the text in later. But and there's something I didn't fully write the script for it, so when I went back in later to write it, I'm writing the script to fit the speech bubbles. So if it's like too many words, I have to cut words out.
So that was one of the things. Again, my sister and I wrote this together, but my sister was the one who was coming up with the vast majority of the material because she's a professional writer, and she,
Yeah.
like I think we're both very funny.
Mhm.
But so she scripted out. There's a whole document of like all the character stuff, any future things that we could do, and then it's all scripted fully. That was one of the things I had to go back though after she was done with a lot of this stuff. Was say, comics a visual medium.
Yes.
This dialogue here, we can replace that with a gimmick in the panel that's going to explain that.
Mhm.
We don't need this sentence. It does. So then it's kind of trimming the fat, so to speak.
Oh yeah.
Because again, she doesn't know comics like I know comics, but I don't know writing like she knows writing. So
My general idea of with comics is try and pare down the rating as much as possible, unless it's a gimmick, unless you're just trying to have a character just kind of like talking.
and actually, that's one of Lucky's. Lucky has this super long name that's all formal, old English, whatever. But that is actually one of Lucky's gimmicks too. Is that he can spin this long yarn to put a character, like to almost hypnotize a character. So like, please, sir, like, blah, 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 and then the character is just like in a zombie state, and you can do whatever you want with him. But again, she wanted to think about like, well, what could he say? Or I'm thinking, what could he say? And really, it's just, you know what he says? He starts to say, well, please, sir, I'm just a poor orphan from... And then the next panel is just the blah, 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 blah behind the actual character, which we don't need to hear any of the words.
Right.
It doesn't matter what he says. It's not important. It's
Right.
creating the visual that explains what's going on. So...
Yeah, and there's so many different tricks. Like I was just looking at a Dan Klaus video where he was doing one character who's going on a date, and his date is talking to him, and his thought balloons are just stamped over the top of the word balloons of the date talking to him, where he's like totally not
I
listening.
love that because that's
Yeah.
me at the store so often.
Yeah.
Where people are talking and I have no idea what they're talking about, and my mind just goes to outer space, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
great, okay.
Yeah, that's what's. There's so much.
Yeah, what a fun visual that is.
Yeah.
That's such a good gimmick.
Yeah, and that's part of the magic of lettering is that when it's done really well, you can do very complex things like that, and the people reading the book don't necessarily go, "Wow, great lettering." They're more engrossed in that story. Yeah, that's, and I was talking about this earlier, but part of the appeal of making comics is it's the elegant integration of literature, fine art, graphic design.
Mm-hmm.
And that's incredibly challenging,
Yeah.
but it's such an addicting challenge because every time you learn something new, you're like, oh, let me get back up at that plate and try again.
Yeah, again, I consider myself to be an expert in comics, but making a comic, I'm not. I'm just not. And I understand all of these things. Again, I don't have the graphic design skills that you have. I don't have the art abilities that you have. But I have an understanding of how the medium works, and I think that that's at a very high level. And I feel like
Well, that's where you got to start.
Yes.
And if you have a good sense for like the things that you want to do, then that helps you figure out where you want to go. Because when I started doing like comics more seriously, I thought I understood them really well too,
Yeah.
and then I found myself kind of like running into walls and
Yeah.
being like, how do I do this piece? Or this is way more complicated than I thought it.
Yeah, because
would be.
it's the idea of you understand comics at a very high level, but you've also again put in those hours where like you just need to, like anything, you just have to put in your
Yes.
whatever it is, your 10,000 hours or whatever it is to figure it out. And that's where comics get even more complicated though, because it's not like you're putting in 10,000 hours drawing characters,
Right.
or you're not putting in 10,000 hours with graphic design, or you're not putting 10,000 hours in with in terms of understanding colors and in how like it's so multidisciplinary.
Yeah.
It's wild. And again, I feel like I know all this stuff, but then you in execution, it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
For me to even do the most simple of things is going to take forever.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like you're running full speed into that brick wall, and then you just have to have the patience and fortitude to get up the next time you're ready and run into the brick wall again, and just hope for better results each time. That's how I describe making comics.
Alex, his colors have changed in the other chat for some reason. Lettering is life. It's how I can make poor quality signs more readable. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to, we went to our Scott McCloud thing, interpreting
yeah.
visual symbols and things like that, and how letters work and how spatial relationships can change, the meanings of some of these things. And
Definitely, like I don't know that I necessarily do it all the time in my stuff, but talking about Chris Eliopoulos and his lettering, like having a big circle speech bubble and then making that lettering like nice and tight and centered in there. I think this is a thing that a lot of people forget to do, but it's okay to have more space around your words inside a speech bubble. It does not always need to be super tight.
you're going to have to, we'll have to dissect this at some point in time, maybe
Yeah.
this weekend if we're hanging out.
Yeah,
And,
because
like,
not everybody's Tom Orzechowski.
Yeah.
And Tom Orzechowski can make anything work.
Yeah.
And he's just multi Eisner Award winning letterer. who
Yeah, I
did
wouldn't mind.
Sandman
Like,
and
yeah, I
other
wouldn't mind
stuff.
looking at yeah. Show me some examples of what you're talking about because I know what you're talking about, but I guess maybe I'm not.
It's okay to have space. Like I'm always trying to simplify things as much as I can, or when my brain is working, because sometimes my brain shut off and I'm just trying to get something done. But it's okay to minimize it, center it, give it space.
Are you going
Minimize,
to
center,
give us an
space.
example of this? Is that what we're building towards?
Maybe I could. Let's see if because I don't know if I have everything on
Yeah.
this one, because I'm moving my stuff over from my other computer to this computer because this one's newer. I got some other kind of fun drawings in here.
You want to take a look at some other stuff?
Yeah, I can load that up while Illustrator's coming up.
Yeah. You want to switch to .cam or?
Yeah, we can switch over to .cam. Yeah, I'm using Adobe Fresco. It's one of my favorite drawing apps. It's an Adobe product. This is way early on in development of the next Wesley thing, but I'm considering making this the cover of Volume 2. This might be a painting. This is just kind of a sketch. It's inked and then it has some gray tones in there, but kind of ripping that old trope of ripping through the cover of the book.
Are those supposed to be long boxes in the background? Or is that
Just windows?
okay?
I mean,
for whatever reason, all of a sudden I went to the fact that you said digging through long boxes. I'm like, oh, are those hidden long boxes in the background?
well, there's going to be some long boxes in Volume 2. There's going to be some stuff. Who knows when all this stuff's going to get done, but I've had ideas for what happens next for a while. That's just the nature of doing anything, is it takes way longer than you would think. And, sometimes it's better for taking longer. Actually, I do have a little thing in there with long boxes. Let's see if I have anything.
I do like your fart.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
It's calligraphy.
Mm-hmm.
Do I even have anything in this one? You know what I can do? Let's bring it back, and I'll pull up a PDF.
Yeah.
It's just swing back, and I'll give you an example with the text
All right.
out of my own thing here.
Oh, I bet why you mad. Had to switch to Twitch. Seems FB crapped out on me. All right, maybe the Facebook pooped.
As it does.
Yeah, it did last. Our
it's a
first
good-
time we did it, it didn't work. Our second time we did it, it seemed to work.
It's a good dream.
August 10th. In this episode, Aaron Chu's gone. Yeah, maybe it pooped out again. I don't know. Oh well, we're trying. All
Well,
right.
this is a little bit older, but it'll still work.
Yeah.
This is not the
Oh,
final.
Jonathan says same. So yeah, Facebook must have. We even lowered the bit rate, whatever that means,
Mm-hmm.
to try to get it so Facebook could. So sometimes we've noticed too, Twitch is smart enough that if the stream it drops for a few seconds,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't shut everything down. It just there's a few second delay and then it kicks back in again. Whereas Facebook might not be smart enough to do that. Are we going to go back to the doc cam here?
Yeah, we can go back to the dot cam. I can kind of go through some of the lettering that I've done here. Let's see. This is full screen. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, so now we can see this a little bit more. So, and also I can kind of like go through some of this stuff. Kind of give you a sense of what these first pages. What? Oh no. Oh, okay, it's up and down. Yeah, but there's the nice cover there. You got the interior cover with all the other covers featured in there, so you'll still get that in color. Love this black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And then I couldn't do end pages, but this is going to be kind of like a faux end pages of the cast there. A little dedication to Teresa, Lucy, and Tootsie. Yeah, we got some of the stuff.
So
Yeah.
okay, so show me some of your lettering choices here because you're just talking about these, and I can see the
Oh, but this
negatives.
is not-
Can you not zoom?
It's just being silly. I guess it was a nice dream to want to be able to do that in full screen, but I have to get back. Now I can zoom like this, I think. Yeah, here we go. All right. I don't know why I would take away that ability, but I'm not an engineer.
Because I can see the negative space already in those balloons that you're talking about.
Yeah. So in
And
here we've got-
actually I do. I'm just trying to think about how to utilize the space in its entire the stuff that I guess I'm looking at when I'm doing it. I'm thinking about something like that where it's filling up the entirety of the balloon.
Mhm.
But then these, this, and you can see the choice to leave that extra space, and
Mhm.
it does read very clean.
Yes. Yep. And I even break apart sentences sometimes into these separate chunks of bubbles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was one of the things too. Again, my sister scripted all of this,
Mhm.
but now it's like the choices that I made. Where and again, it's not as dialogue heavy as this because it's supposed to be aimed at a 6-year-old, 7-year-old kid.
Right. Yeah, and this is some of the most dialogue heavy stuff maybe in the whole book. Definitely issue 1.
Mm.
Like this whole scenario is all dialogue based, and the way I've kind of grown to write is like super simple. Because if it's an indie thing, it's already tough to get it into somebody's hand. And then I think you might have heard me use this metaphor before, but it's like a slide. Like it takes all the effort to like find the slide, like go up all the steps to the top of the slide and then get to the slide. Like once you get to that part, the slide better be fun.
Yeah.
It better not be too hard to enjoy the next thing. So I try to do that. And
This is an interesting choice where you've got the big stack on the left, and yeah,
Mhm.
you need that dialogue in there. So how do you tie in that one last balloon?
yeah, I didn't want to do another tale because I think once you have one tale established going to a character, another bubble with a tail is redundant.
No, I think. Well, you look at that panel right there. But
Oh,
no, but I would agree. I think that. But yeah, again, how would you make that work though? You need.
I mean, I could tail across them there.
I mean, I guess I don't feel like again these are all choices that you have to make, and there's no right or wrong choices.
Mhm.
And I think that's what's so fascinating that because you could I would make the case that this is the correct thing to do is have this extra because you shouldn't have two tails.
You know,
But
Matt,
also this this isn't wrong though. That's not wrong to me.
yeah, it's not bad. I'm not going to change it. I mean, it could have worked with that tail across there, but this is also I went back and relettered, and of course, issue 1 is the first one that I relettered. So I established some of these rules, and then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and relettered. And then I kind of went back and re
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah.
Like with my own lettering. Like you start to figure out what makes sense for your own lettering. Like there it's working pretty good. And I broke another thing here too. Look, another thing that I try to do is have the first speech bubble be the one with the tail.
Again, you didn't do that in that panel that's up there? Or, oops, sorry.
Where are we? Was it this one?
So this panel right here.
Yeah, I
You
didn't
ch-
do it there either.
But I like how this, it still reads very clear to me that, like, obviously you're reading left to right, duh. I'm not distracted by the tail being over there. That's where his mouth is. And I think it makes more sense, as opposed to having, like, a longer tail, which you don't
Yeah.
need to have a super long tail. But
Yeah,
it's, again, all of the rules.
Kind of go
and-
out the window depending on the
Yeah,
situation.
and every page, every panel is so different.
Yeah, and you got to kind of make those choices on how it's going to work. Yeah, like here's some really good example of the just having the simple words with a big bubble.
Mm-hmm.
It just works. And no, I'm not doing it as well as Chris Eliopoulos, but he's somebody who I always think about.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy who I feel like I learned lettering from by reading his books.
Yeah, like I wish DJ Country No Harm, like right there. Far out. If I went to redo this, I might make that tail longer.
I agree.
It's kind of a short one. But, and you learn all these things. And I used a lot of those kind of general rules for lettering that Nate Picos has, like those one sheets. Those are extremely helpful. And I've got his book too, and I flipped through it. I really need to give it a deep dive before I do some more stuff.
That's where I'm at. I flipped through it a few times and looked at things, but those one sheets are actually those are great.
Yeah, like if you're lettering and you're trying to get stuff done, like they give you the guardrails so you don't go too terribly bad. This was another tough one where the person in the front is speaking first, and then somebody down here is saying the next thing, so they have this like long curved tail.
See, I would read. This is supposed to be first, the nice.
No. Up at the top.
Oh yeah, no, then that reads correctly to me.
Yeah.
I guess I was reading it as this bottom thing should come first, and I'm
No.
like, no.
Yeah, I always try to do top left to bottom right.
Yep.
So a lot of stuff will kind of come across the page like that. Or this takes up enough space on the left, it doesn't need to be as high up.
Yeah.
But it fits into that space a bit better there. There's the thing with lettering too is like it is composition. It becomes an integral part of the art. So you have to think about the overall flow of the image, and it's such a big graphical part of it that you can, if you have like a less impressive drawing or something, but you do like a whole bunch of speech bubbles across the page in a kind of a dynamic way, you can kind of save that page. I mean, I like these sequences here, and used Noisy Kids, another Nate Picos font for the sound effects, and Nightmark for the lettering, because it still had kind of a natural kind of look to it. It didn't look too perfect.
Yeah, can you go back up?
Yeah.
Again, as simple as this is, the lettering here, that's an interesting because it's filling up that middle of the panel. It's filling up that space.
Yes. And without that, it would not be as impressive of a.
Was there a
of a
Pizza's
page.
Pizza reference in the initial one?
Yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there was there the whole time
Okay.
because they're making fun of chain restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And then no speech bubbles here. Just the guy eating some cheese doodles out of a bag. It's one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. Yeah, some more bubbles there where people are talking.
But yeah, just how it moves you around a little bit.
Yeah.
So okay,
It becomes a directional device.
Now let's look at the size of your font here real quick, because this is smaller than this, correct? This speech bubbles font is smaller than that.
Physically, yes. I think they are still.
Because that's the other thing that I've been running into is that I'm trying to stick with a certain size font,
Mm-hmm.
but then I feel like as I'm adjusting things, it's like, well, that's not a 9.0 font anymore. That's a 9.4 or 9.6, and well, I had to make it a little smaller, so that's like an 8 point whatever. Is that something that you think about, or is it so minute that, like, again, the normal person reading this, I don't think is going to look at that and say, oh, that font's half a size smaller than. But that's what I've been looking at. That's what I see.
Sometimes I go visual with just general speech bubbles. I do point size 11 with 9 spacing.
Okay. Now, and that's for every font.
Because typically, unless I want to change, like this voila is oversized.
So you're doing an 11 size font with what was the spacing again?
Size 9 leading.
Okay.
And different fonts have different sizes. Like this Man Machine font from Nate Picos is a little bit bigger than the Nightmark. So I just left it larger.
Okay.
Because I feel like having the type be a little bit larger helps readability too.
Okay, so maybe I should increase the font size and some of the stuff that I'm doing if I want to print it in a comic book size thing. It looks fine on the screen and legible on the screen, but again, that's the other thing you don't know about. You're doing all of this on a screen. What does it look like when it prints up? And I don't know that until I print it up. I bet why you mad says the 1-point font difference doesn't matter. Well, maybe to you. You as the creator will always notice, and maybe other creators and graphic designers will notice, but the average reader won't notice. It just has to be consistent, and I think that's 100% yes.
Well, there are some philosophies I take into account, like larger text is easier to read, and then if for whatever reason, let's say you want to resize it to a digest, if that typeface is already pretty big, so when you shrink it down, it'll still be legible. When I teach this to my middle schoolers, they always want to make the type way too small.
Yeah.
And I have them work large on the 11 by 17 paper. And I said, if this were to become a comic strip, or if this were to become a comic page, you would lose all of your words. You would not be able to read it. So I always try to, not insanely, but make it pretty big, put a decent amount of space, if possible, around it. So it reads super easy. You want people to almost read it by accident.
Which is not the opposite of what I've been doing, but I've been trying to butt it right up to the edge of that balloon, where I don't want it touching, obviously. But like to try to utilize the full balloon space and try to not have that negative space there. But stylistically, I think the choices that you're making in this book speak to me that, this is what I should be doing.
And sometimes it's just with the dialogue you need to fit in there, it's just not possible to.
Which you have, and again, I can see some of the panels.
Tons of space.
Yeah,
because that text needed to fit there. There might have been another way to solve it, but I didn't know it.
But even if you kick the balloon out a little bit, I still feel like those words and how it's like layered. Like I don't know how to make that. I think that's the best choice.
Yeah,
and again, there's not a right or wrong, and that's what's interesting about it is that there's so many different ways to approach this, but.
I love the way the spacing in this panel worked out with the speech bubbles, because like the drawings and the figures and the movement here, I like, but just dropping those speech bubbles, boom, right there, like that's just a really nice looking panel.
You do a lot of bold words too, and that's how I want to do. I feel like I'm very much inclined to like, it's just my goofy cartoony style of writing too, where I feel like I want to emphasize every third word, type thing.
Well, it just changes the inflection when you read it.
Yes.
So and that's how people talk anyway. It's more naturalistic, I think. It's just another key on how to
look at those beautiful hand model on that.
Well, yeah, look at that.
Who held that box of coffee for you that you could get that? We'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know. Oh, I just love that new logo typeface.
I do like that new logo. Actually, that's the other thing I need help with. I don't even know if we have a name for the thing that I'm trying to do, but I may have you again either sit with me and look at fonts or try to figure out if there's a free font that we can use to.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
Depends on what type of thing you want to do, and then no speech bubbles at all on this, where the narration is just built into the illustration. And this is another one of my favorite pieces of the whole book too. Yeah, but all these kind of overlap things and trying to figure out how dialogue should go from one panel to the next.
No, see, now we have more comments in the Facebook chat though. Danny Whalen, what's up? Hello, what's up? What's up, Daniel? How's it going? Hopefully you're still there. Maybe not. I don't know.
Some more people. Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Oh, I do think I'm good though. I think if we want to wrap it up,
yeah, gonna wrap it up.
This is interesting. This is the stuff that design wise, I'm sitting there over the weekend with my sister going, I know how to draw. I know how to make a comic. I know what lettering look. Boy, maybe I know what the final product's supposed to look like, or in my mind what it's supposed to look like. But man, there's just a million different choices that you need to make to get to that place, even in the most simple of comics. You know.
Yeah, but that's it's like what I was saying earlier. The more you learn, the more you don't know, and you can go and take like another step. Like when I was working on relettering everything, I was feeling pretty good about it, and then I opened up a comic book and was flipping through it with like some really strong lettering.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I don't know anything.
But
know?
but it's a process, and that's the thing. It takes a long time to work through the process, and you also can't you can't look at a Chris Eliopoulos comic and go, oh, like, I don't know anything about lettering. Well, guess what? There's only one person with more credits in Marvel Comics than Stan Lee, and that's Chris Eliopoulos because he's lettered everything.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't hold yourself to that standard.
Well, and then there's different styles too. Like there's the Letraset typeface of EC Comics. Like if you're going for like a classic horror comic, I think it's very rare that there's even even bold lettering in that.
I don't like that lettering, to be
No?
honest, in the EC Comics.
Yeah, well,
It's a flavor,
Yes.
and yes, it works for that particular thing, but like, I think it had its place in time, and
it
right.
definitely evokes a certain time. Nate Picos, have you looked at any of his YouTube videos where he live letters? Like he just records himself lettering a part of a comic and then narrates over it later.
Oh God, I don't know if I want to.
There's some next level stuff.
That's what I feel, but I feel like it would just be one of those things where you'd watch and I'd just be like so defeated, like he's so good. Which I
No,
know
he
is
is
exact.
good.
Which I know
He
is
is
exact.
good.
What I just told you about Chris Eliopoulos is the exact same thing, but like whatever.
But I mean,
I can be a hypocrite.
that's how you learn. Like if you're bad at playing baseball and you start playing baseball, some people who are really good at baseball,
Yeah.
you're not going to be as good as them, but you're going to get better. Nate Picos, Blambot. I highly
Check him
support
out.
him. Check him out.
Free fonts, man. Some
yeah.
might say Scott McCloud might say he's doing the Lord's work.
He is. He
let's
really
plug
is.
the.
Oh yeah. We're gonna be doing
Here,
speaking of making comics so much today.
do
Oh
that,
yeah,
right?
let's do it on the doc cam. We're Evan and I are gonna be at the Oswego Public Library, August 2023, August 29th.
This is a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday, 4 p.m. to 6:30. We're gonna have some materials ready to go there.
I told you we got a budget for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll talk about that off air here, but we're gonna have some materials ready. We're gonna be talking about making characters, making probably comic strips. I think if you could,
It won't be me talking about lettering for 3 hours. I promise you that.
unless people want to talk about
They
lettering.
won't want to talk about lettering.
I mean, it's so important. It's so important to comics.
But yeah, that'll be good. That's Tuesday, August 29th, from 4 p.m. to 6:30. Oswego
Yep.
Public Library Community Room. Aaron and I will be there.
All ages.
You can
and
bring
abilities
some
welcome.
materials with you if you like. If not, you don't have to. All ages and abilities are welcome. Yeah, we're just gonna have some fun. We're gonna make some comics. We're gonna talk about the craft of making comics like we do here, but hopefully it'll be more entertaining. And
It's pretty entertaining. I don't know.
and less tactical, more fun, more silly. Because I do think that's the whole point of doing this stuff is because it's fun, right?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, but I find the technical fun.
Me too.
Yeah, but we hope to see you there.
All right,
Come on
yeah,
down.
this has been.
The Comic Shop does a podcast with me, Aaron Z. Lee. Number one seems presumptuous. I feel like I'm an okay dad of the world.
And I was the Northeast Division qualifier for World's #1 Grandpa in 2013. There was
I once had a T-shirt that said "World's Coolest Grandpa."
yeah. Someday,
Maybe.
Someday. Give it
Maybe.
another 25
You
years.
don't rush it.
Yeah. Let's yeah, Goose, come on. Let's behave.
Oh, jeez. Oh, boy.
All right. I think that's it.
All right. Godspeed.
Good
Good
night,
luck.
everybody.
Good night.
Apologies to Jack Kirby.
Apologies to Jack Kirby.